his tiny head on one side and looked up at him with his soft bright eye, which was like a black dewdrop. He seemed quite familiar and not the least afraid. He hopped about and pecked the earth briskly, looking for seeds and insects. It actually gave Mary a strange feeling in her heart because he was so pretty and cheerful and seemed so like a person. He had a tiny plump body and a delicate beak and slender, delicate legs. "Will he always come when you call him?" she asked, almost in a whisper. "Aye, that he will. I've knowed him ever since he was a fledgling. He come out of the nest in the other garden, and when he first flew over the wall he was too weak to fly back for a few days, and we got friendly. When he went over the wall again, the rest of the brood was gone and he was lonely, and he had come back to me." "What kind of a bird is he?" Mary asked. "Don't you know? He's a robin redbreast, and they're the friendliest, curious birds alive. They're almost as friendly as dogs, if you know how to get on with them. Watch him pecking about there and looking around us now and again. He knows we're talking about him." It was the queerest thing in the world to see the old fellow. He looked at the plump little scarlet waistcoated bird as if he were proud and fond of him. "He's a conceited one," he chuckled. "He likes to hear folk talk about him, and curious, bless me, there never was his like for curiosity and meddling. He's always coming to see what I'm planting. He knows all the things Mr. Craven never troubles himself about. He's the head gardener, he is." The robin hopped about, busily pecking the soil, and now and then stopped and looked at them a little. Mary thought his black dewdrop eyes gazed at her with great curiosity. It really seemed as if he were finding out all about her. The strange feeling in her heart increased. "Where did the rest of the brood fly to?" she asked. "There's no knowing. The old ones turn 'em out of their nest and make 'em fly. They're scattered before you know it. This one was a knowing one, and he knew he was lonely." Mistress Mary went a step nearer to the robin and looked at him very hard. "I'm lonely," she said. She had not known before that this was one of the things which made her feel sour and cross. She seemed to find it out when the robin looked at her and she looked at the robin. The old gardener pushed his cap back on his bald head and stared at her a minute. "Art thou the little wench from India?" he asked. Mary nodded. "Then no wonder thou'rt lonely. Thou'lt be lonelier before thou's done," he said. He began to dig again, driving his spade deep into the rich black garden soil, while the robin hopped about very busily employed. "What is your name?" Mary inquired. He stood up to answer her. "Ben Weatherstaff," he answered, and then he added with a surly chuckle, "I'm lonely myself, except when he's with me," and he jerked his thumb towards the robin. "He's the only friend I've got." "Well, I have no friends at all," said Mary. "I never had. My ayah didn't like me, and I never played with anyone." It is a Yorkshire habit to say what you think with blunt frankness, and old Ben Weatherstaff was a Yorkshire moor man. "Thou and me are a bit alike," he said. "We was wove out the same cloth. We're neither of us good looking, and we're both of us sour as we look. We've got the same nasty tempers, both of us, I'll warrant." This was plain speaking, and Mary Lennox had never heard the truth about herself in her life. Native servants always salaamed and submitted to you, whatever you did. She had never thought much about her looks, but she wondered if she was as unattractive as Ben Weatherstaff, and she also wondered if she looked as sour as he had looked before the robin came. She actually began to wonder also if she was a nasty-tempered. She felt uncomfortable. Suddenly, a clear, rippling little sound broke out near her, and she turned around. She was standing a few feet from a young apple tree, and the robin had flown onto one of its branches and had burst out into a scrap of a song. Ben Weatherstaff laughed outright. "What did he do that for?" asked Mary. "He's made up his mind to make friends with thee," replied Ben. "Dang me if he hasn't taken a fancy to thee." "To me?" said Mary, and she moved towards the little tree softly and looked up. "Would you make friends with me?" she said to the robin, just as if she were speaking to a person. "Would you?" And she did not say it either in a hard little voice or in her imperious Indian voice, but in a tone so soft and eager and coaxing that Ben Weatherstaff was as surprised as she had been when she heard him whistle. "Why," he cried out, "thou said thus as nice as a human as if thou was a real child instead of a sharp old woman now. said it almost like Dickon talked to his wild things on the moor. Do you know Dickon? Mary asked, turning round in a hurry. Everybody knows him. Dickon's wandering about everywhere. The very blackberries and heatherbells know him. I warrant the foxes shows him where their cubs lies, and the scarlarks doesn't hide their nests from him. Mary would have liked to ask some more questions. She was almost as curious about Dickon as she was about the deserted garden. But just at that moment, the robin, who had ended his song, gave a little shake of his wings, spread them and flew away. He had made his visit and had other things to do. He's flown over the wall, Mary cried out, watching him. He's flown into the orchard. He's flown across the other wall into the garden where there's no door. He lives there, said old Ben. He came out of the egg there. If he's caught in, he's making up to some young madam of a robin that lives among those old rose trees there. Rose trees, said Mary. Are those rose trees? Ben Weatherstaff took up his spade again and began to dig. There was 10 years ago, he mumbled. I should like to see them, said Mary. Where is the green door? There must be a door somewhere. Ben drove his spade deep and looked as uncompanionable as he had looked when she first saw him. There was 10 years ago, but there isn't now, he said. No door, cried Mary. There must be. None as anyone can find, and none is anyone's business. Don't you be a meddlesome wench, and poke your nose where it's no cause to go. Here, I must go on with my work. Get you gone and play you. I've got no more time. And he actually stopped digging, threw his spade over his shoulder and walked off, without even glancing at her to say goodbye.